Hey guys, Brett here, connecting from UbiCentral, and today I'm going to be giving my final gameplay impressions of Far Cry 5. Now, I've probably played the game for about close to 8 hours in total, so I would say I'm pretty familiar with it at this point. So with that said, let's get started. So in this specific session, we actually got to play the first hour of the game, and I have to say, it was a lot better than I expected. They really did a good job of introducing the villain, your allies, and your character as well. It is worth noting your character doesn't really speak, so it's kind of similar to Ghost Recon Wildlands in that way, but honestly, the story of Far Cry 5 is already 10 times better than that game. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I really think this game has potential to be the best in the series, at least when it comes to the story. My only real complaint with it is that there's so many different characters in the world that have missions for you, which is nice for variety, but with that said, I've already met characters who are just kind of boring. So I hope the majority of them are interesting and actually have a lot of development character-wise. As for gameplay, the AI still isn't the best. I will say that they're getting better each time I play the game, but there's still cases where I'm right in front of them and they just run away to get behind cover or something like that. To be fair though, I did actually die once or twice from enemy AI, whereas the last time I played this, I only died once, and that was because I jumped off a building. So they are getting better. As for gunplay, I used quite a bit of weapons. I still prefer the crossbow because of its stealth element, but using an assault rifle or pistol did feel pretty satisfying for the most part, especially when you get headshots. Overall though, the best gun, at least to me, was the sniper. It just feels powerful and you can get some really cool kills with it. I could feel a bit of auto aim, but I'm sure there's a setting where you can lower it or turn it off completely if that's something that bothers you. Hope County, Montana is a really nice change compared to the usual Far Cry settings. I know some people don't like it because it's set in the US, however, I really think it's perfect, especially for the story they're trying to tell. Not to mention there's populated areas, so it's nice to see other NPCs that work at restaurants or at a general store and things like that. You know, not every single NPC is trying to kill each other, so it's a welcome change. The map specifically was massive, and I didn't even touch the surface of it, and that's just because there's so much to do, and I don't mean that in a bad way. In fact, the game doesn't force you to do any missions. If you want to go and fish, you can do that. I wasn't constantly being reminded that there's missions to do, which was nice. And going back to fish real quick, I didn't see any other water animals, which was a bit disappointing. I mean, it's possible that they're in the game and I just wasn't looking in the right areas, but I wouldn't hold your breath. See what I did there? Nope. Okay. This game also has a lot of customization for your character. Some of you might have noticed I was wearing a Watch Dogs shirt. There's also merchandise from other Ubisoft franchises, which is always nice to see. You can also buy weapons, fishing rods, vehicles, and so on. There will be microtransactions in the game by the looks of it, but honestly, if you play through the game, go fishing and hunting, it's pretty easy to afford things. Ubisoft are pretty good when it comes to microtransactions, so don't expect something like Battlefront 2 or Shadow of War. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the Far Cry arcade mode, which is basically the map editor from the previous games. No one, unfortunately, got to build their own maps, so I don't really know how in-depth this system is specifically, but what I can tell you is that it uses assets from Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, and Watch Dogs, so it's safe to assume there will be a ton of customization. I actually uploaded a video of me playing through some custom-made maps, which were pretty fun, and not to mention, with the Far Cry arcade, you can actually make multiplayer maps. And I'm so happy to see that because this could keep players coming back to the game after the main story. Especially if players can create races and things like that, the possibilities would be endless. I really hope it's like the Halo custom games because that would keep me coming back for years. Anyways, those were my impressions of Far Cry 5. I am doing an AMA on the Far Cry subreddit, so if you want to ask me questions there, feel free to do so. A link will be in the description down below. I'll also try to answer some of your questions in the comments down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.
Everything I've earned and everything I rap about is everything I've learned. So hopefully the listener can position a situation where they don't get burned, and they can learn from my mistakes like I've learned from the greats to do whatever it takes. For heaven's sakes, open your mind. This shit one of a kind, elegant and refined.